heroism. It's the pursuit of two ideals, excellence and a higher purpose. This noble mission is not just found in Hollywood. It's a game changer for businesses devoted to it. Almost all business owners launch their company to make a difference in the world around them. Join us on the Heroic Experience as we talk with business owners, senior leaders, and established entrepreneurs so that you too can elevate your business to heroic success. Now, here's your host, John D. Hanson.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience. We are grateful to be sponsored by Kaufman Media. Check out their digital signage solutions and far more on their website, kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. I'm grateful to have Rob Holbrook, SMB leader and sales manager at Schneider Electric, as our guest today. I connected with Rob on LinkedIn a little while ago and just loved, great vibe. We connected on so many things that are just passions of ours. I wanted to make sure I had him on our show. So welcome to the show, Rob. We always start off the very first segment with 2-3 wow client stories of companies or people you've gotten to work with. We'd love to hear those this morning. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the introduction. And I, too, had some great conversation with you, one of the most memorable conversations of many while I was on my career journey. So thank you very much, and I appreciate you having me on your show.
Yeah, my pleasure. Take it away. We'd love to hear some of those wow stories from you, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. So one that came to mind and one that really started early in my career. So I'll leave names out, but for the folks listening, I'm sure they're smart enough to connect the dots. But my first career journey was at the largest rental car company in the United States. Mm-hmm. And I had a very successful career with them. And one of the things that the family that owned the company praised to us was, we're still the little guy helping the little guy. Mm. And I'm sharing that because in my experience, when they got to a certain point, at least while I was there, sometimes you forget that you're the little guy helping the little guy, and you begin to not give that same dedication to your accounts. Mm. And once that gets in the organization, it's kind of hard to get out of it. You need to do a little bit of a gut check and take what I call a slice of the humble pie to get back to your roots. So I'm segueing that with a little bit of a story where I'm a new area manager. I've got 8 offices over in the South Jersey market, highly competitive in the rental car space. It's one of the largest dealership populations in the country. So as you can imagine, every transaction counts because it's important that for me as an area manager, I had to teach my team, hey, these are all interactions, not transactions. Please don't forget that. And here, I would talk to them about the why. And I'm sharing that with you because I had a local body shop right in my backyard who was it would have equated to a 10% lift in business had they used my company.
Wow.
They used my company for the first 20 years of their establishment. And we lost that relationship 5 years prior to me taking over the role as area manager. And what I learned, John, is we lost it because we forgot that we were the little guy taking care of the little guy. And we started giving poor service, and then we gave excuses for poor service. And over time, the ownership team said, hey, there has to be another option. And sure enough, there's always another option.
Always.
So they moved the competitor in-house, who now was a recurring revenue cycle because they rented portion of their facility to run their program out of.
Wow.
So not only did we lose the account, but we had a competitor now pop up in our backyard.
Right.
So that was mission one when I took over this area. And one of the things that I taught my team was, I said, how do we demonstrate we're the little guy helping the little guy? Specifically, what I said was, anytime we get an opportunity to have an interaction with this shop, whether it's the client or the ownership team, let's start with our A team first, which is management team does all of the interactions at first. Because we need to establish the baseline of the relationship again and prove to them that we can earn their business back and we can do a better job than anyone else, like we had proven before.
Okay.
And what's interesting is we were a Fortune 100 company, so in theory, you already think that you've earned that because, wow, we're the biggest player in town.
Right.
Well, not so much the case when it comes to rubber meets the road. What does that transaction day-to-day look like? So one of the tactics, sat down with my leadership team, we devised hey, we're going to put the A team on every every transaction. So we navigated that for the first 3 months, and we started proving ourselves to be the level of service that they had come to know from 20 years ago. And really at that point, because we had someone in the backyard, the only way in which we could get into this account was to not hope, because that's not a strategy,
right,
but really put ourselves where every transaction we had was a 5-star transaction. And if the other account ever stopped thinking like we're the little guy helping the little guy, we now are going to be the prominent name.
Right.
And what I'll share with you, John, to speed this up is we were able to accomplish that. And a couple of the things that stood out to the owner of that body shop was, one, he saw that my team was able to not only treat his clients as if it was a 5-star experience. He came over to my shop and watched some of our transactions when he brought back some of the cars and some clients to us, and he saw us delivering that level of expertise to all of the clients, not just ones from his shop in terms of, hey, this is our standard. This is not an abnormal process or interaction because we want your business. But this is how we handle all of our business.
Yeah, it's baked into your DNA and your processes. You've systematized, and a good word, you've systematized how you take care of people, where 5-star is not a fluke. It's not only at the ones where you want to earn their new business, which is common in the business marketplace. Take the very best care of prospects, and then once they're in the door, kind of forget about them. How long did it take you, Rob, from when you started to aggressively court them to get them back? How long did it take from start to finish before you earned that business back?
So it was a staggered process. I would tell you in the first 90 days, we saw a handful of transactions. And it really took us about 9 months fully to get to the table and renegotiate the terms of moving out the existing tenant, which was a competitor of ours, and us absorbing. It took probably a total of 12 months till we had a signed agreement to say, hey, we're going to absorb 100% of your business again under these terms. And that current client, that current competitor is going to be moved out of your facility.
Okay, well.
So it's about a 12-month cycle. And just to add one little piece here, John, the most pivotal part was there was a handful of off days, which was weekends, and we knew that shop and a couple of our shops in the area needed service on the weekend, not your traditional working hours. So my local manager, and I decided to do some of the, I'll call it grunt work, where it was a hot summer day. We're out there prepping vehicles, and we're cleaning up, and we're doing a lot of the grunt work, so to speak. The owner of this shop came over and saw us doing that type of labor, where we normally wear suits all day. We're out there in suits still, but cleaning and getting really scrappy within the business. And that's when he walked up to us and said, you know what, why don't we set that meeting for next week?
Wow.
Because we reestablished the little guy helping the little guy. You're not better than any job that anyone else has to do. And when we showed that to him, and it wasn't staged that way, it was just generally what we were doing. He observed it, and that was the moment that really, I think, put us back in his good grace.
Well, we are up against a break, Rob. Time does fly. I want to come back to this in the third segment on something you touched on that is just gold for businesses of any size, but especially ones where relationships are key. Small to mid-sized companies are that. So we want to hear your story, though. That's my favorite segment, the second segment. Stay tuned with us. Come back after the break where we get to hear Rob's story, his journey from where he started to where he is now. Be sure to join back after the break.
Inspire, influence, and connect your audience with digital signage. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Whether you need digital menu boards for your quick service restaurant, digital displays for marketing in your retail stores, or wayfinding and unified communications for your schools, your corporations, or your healthcare facility, our customizable, affordable options and proven experience make us the only partner you'll need for your next digital signage project. Visit kaufmanmedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN media.com.
Would you buy a car from a dealer without a test drive first? For your business, a consulting partner is even more important. Accelerated Revenue is excited to announce the Take Us for a Test Drive event. Receive 2 exclusive workshops on customer experience and winning culture, a customized culture snapshot, and a leadership strategy session worth over $10,000, all in for just $2,500. Best of all, when you onboard our consulting team, we'll credit you the entire $2,500. Spots are limited, so visit our website today at accrev.com/test drive.
Check out John's worldwide selling book, Wow Your Customers, 7 Ways to World-Class Service on Amazon. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience, where we are committed to elevating your business to heroic success. Find out how Kaufman Media can help you do that internally and externally through digital signage solutions and far more. Check out their website, kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. I'm grateful to have Rob Holbrook, SMB leader and sales manager at Schneider Electric, as our guest today. Rob, that story, so many elements we need to tie into in the third segment, but I devote the second segment to getting to hear our guests' stories. And these are the things that resonate most strongly with me, and I'm sure with our listeners as well. So as far back as you'd like to go, we'd love to hear your journey of what got you where you started to where you are now.
Yeah, thanks, John. I don't always love talking about myself, but I'll certainly shed some light on who I am and how the DNA of Rob Holbrook today has been created. So I think you said as far back as you go, but I think if I take you all the way back, I think it ties together, and it kind of has some synergies between my career advancement. So inner city, Baltimore product, we'll say.
Okay.
Grew up there, born and raised, and left Baltimore for college and haven't turned back in terms of moved to Philadelphia, met my wife, and met her in college. And at which point started my career in business marketing. I started at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, was extremely successful for them, ran 8 offices in the South Jersey market, and had a team of probably around 50 individuals. I was part of new development. We introduced a new territory, which brought us about 25% market share. Had a lot of really good flex assignments while I was there. So transitioned in 2008 when the economy took a step back to something a little bit different for me, but stable. I went into big box retail and ended up working at Target, which is a fantastic company as well, for almost 10 years. And so I was a general manager at Target. My last assignment was about a $70 million store, roughly about 300 employees. Through that hierarchy, 10 direct executive managers who helped lead a team of roughly around 280 people. So during that time, 3 flex assignments, which I'm most proud of. I had campus recruiting, which was a huge pivotal part of Target's success to bring on upcoming talent. I also had community sponsorships where I'd partner with United Way. We typically generated anywhere from $25,000 to $35,000 in donations out of the Philly market a year. So programs like that is what kept me intrigued. However, what was happening on the side of that was my personal life was growing as well. My wife and I, at the tail end of my Target career, was about to have my 4th daughter. So at that point, we're sitting down at the table, and it's nights, holidays, weekends is really the demand of retail.
Yes.
No real way around it.
Right.
And I had accepted that for about 10 years, and my older girls unfortunately missed some time with Dad during the holidays and things of that nature. So when my 4th daughter was coming, I made a decision to segue into something that would be a little bit more conducive to my lifestyle at the time.
Yeah.
And I got into small business. And John, I fell in love. And I say that because I had been at 2 Fortune 100 companies prior. So systems, processes, flow chart up and down from executive leadership was very clear. I had always been that funnel. So corporate would say, hey, we want to earn a couple more dollars a share. And they would make a change, and it would be for me to be the stopgap from corporate to the team, the people on the front lines. And I had played that role for a long time. And it comes with challenges, but it was interesting in the SMB space is you are that person. You're the corporate and the funnel.
Right.
And I love that because you can make such an impact on not only your employees but your clients. at such an accelerated rate where you can remove pain points much quicker than I ever could before. So to share where I went to two small HVAC companies. The first one I went to was about $8 million when I started. We were at $21 million in 2.5 years. And that was all organic growth. None of that was through acquisition. So we tripled our revenue, tripled our staff, and we did it with around 15 to 18% net profit. So we did it efficiently.
Yeah.
That was the funnest run of my career. So that lit my fire. And for us, I would still be there, frankly, but COVID shut down the entire city of Philadelphia, which was 60% of our revenue stream.
Wow.
And when it shut that down, we lost 60% for a period of 4 months. And so I stayed on with the company, but financially the dynamics looked significantly different.
Yeah.
And my ownership team became very, very conservative, which was within their right and made sense. And so at the time, I had an opportunity to go to a company that was more on the merger and acquisition side in the same space. So I made that jump from what I was, the VP of operations, to now the COO of 3 acquisitions and potentially a 4th that was coming in the next few months. So I made a pretty big jump to about a $50 million company. And my role was to integrate all the systems and processes to streamline them, as well as onboard new companies with what we call do no harm. So when you bring on a new company, a lot of times there's a former owner and things of that nature, and you've got to really be delicate in the way in which you manage that relationship.
Yes.
So I was in that role for about 1.5 years, and we had an exit much sooner than we expected. So the exit strategy was 5 to 7 years. That exit came at 1.5 years based on the ownership team getting a multiplier that just made sense. And so that experience was fantastic. And so I was in the SMB space as sort of a coach and consultant for the last 8 months. And I still have some clients that I talk to, but I took a more permanent role at Schneider Electric as their sales manager for the Philadelphia area. And what's interesting is Schneider, although it's also a Fortune 500 company, they still embrace that mentality of we're the little guy helping the little guy.
Yeah.
That I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And so one of their core values is act like an owner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which stood out to me because in my mind, I'm thinking when I was in the small business space, that really meant act like an owner.
Yeah.
So I found my new home, and they still embrace that as big as they are.
That's cool. Man, so many things as you share your story, and thank you for sharing that with us. We have like a minute left before our next break, but 3 things you talked about. Number 1 is the agility of things. When you work with small, mid-sized companies and they take recommendations and run with them, you can see the impact and bring about effective change so much more quickly that you might never be able to get done, or it takes years with a Fortune 500 company. You can see those results and then the dollars that follow and the satisfaction that follows. For small to mid-sized companies, I can see how rewarding that is. And it's startling stat, Rob. I put together a presentation for a small business development group last year, and I found out that in Ohio, 99.6% of businesses are small, 100 employees or less. I thought that's shocking. I thought it was in the 80s. I'm going to look at every state in the country. The lowest was 92%. The national average was 95% of businesses around us at any time are small, 100 employees or less. The impact that you can have on a small to mid-sized company, no matter what your role is, especially if you're the owner or a key leader, is significant. And if you consult with and help businesses of that size, they're literally everywhere around you. Well, we are coming back for our last segment on this show, Rob, and we're really going to tie some things together and pull out some nuggets that you introduced in the first and the second segment. So be sure to come back for this last segment where I talk with Rob Holbrook about how you can make your company a heroic success. See you after the break.
Did you know that 70% of U.S. residents 12 and older recall seeing digital signage in the past week? Digital signage provides a 35% reduction in perceived wait time with a 30% increase in a customer's in-store browsing time. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Christina said,
"We love our digital signage. The software is easy to use and we can publish content in minutes. It allows for every department to be seen and have a voice."
Visit KaufmanMedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN Media.com.
Attention event planners. Is your company or association planning a conference, seminar, or staff retreat? Are you looking for fresh ideas on high-demand topics like customer experience, leadership, empathy, customer service, earning and keeping trust, and more? Then you need to book John D. Hansen as your next speaker. Brooke said,
"Great presentation. John's concepts help shift my thinking. A good fit for my life right now."
read more testimonials, discover John's full list of speaking topics, check out pricing and more on our website, accrev.com/keynote.
Would you like to be a guest on the Heroic Experience? Contact us at john.hansen@accrev.com. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience, where we are here to elevate your business to heroic success. Kaufman Media does exactly the same thing through digital signage and other solutions you may not have even thought of for your business. Check out their website, kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. I am happy to have Rob Holbrook, SMB leader and sales manager with Schneider Electric, as our guest today. Man, there was gold in that first segment, and I really want to come back to it, Rob. This segment's going to fly, but I really want to start with this. And I want to hear your differentiators, too. But before we do that, sure. You touched on something that is it's proven gold in business, and I think it's glossed over too much, which is retention versus acquisition. You talked about how the process to win back someone that you had for 20 years, not you necessarily, but when we take on a role, we take on ownership and treat the business like it's ours, even if we have no ownership share in it whatsoever. We treat it like that. And you did the same for that car rental agency that you ran, multiple agencies, that area. It took you 9 to 12 months to win that business back. Imagine, now, we've got people listening that are key leaders, that are entrepreneurs, that are business owners, that are established in their field, and they have clients that have been with them for years, that know, like, and trust them. I'd like you to touch on that whole retention piece. Imagine if you had walked into that relationship still ongoing. What are some things you would have done rather than trying to win back, which takes way more time and effort? What are some things you would have done to help retain those kinds of relationships?
So, good question, John. I think I tie this into two elements. So there's retention of accounts, and there's also retention of your employees.
Yes.
So equally taxing on the business,
yep,
and equally expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I've adopted, and I learned later in my career, it's an actual principle under Lean Six Sigma, which is called Gemba walks. Okay. Are you familiar with them, John?
I've heard of them. Have not gone through the experience, but I have heard of them. Yes.
So essentially, the what it means is you go to where the work is. So in this particular scenario, what we lack and what we didn't listen to was our customer. Mm. So, and I don't mean our customer at the counter. So someone comes into your business, you have an interaction. It might be short lived, and you feel like you wowed that individual. Well, you got to remember the source of how that customer got to you, and you got to make and you really need to balance that. So you need to make that individual that's in your house happy, but also the next guest that may come in and the person that's giving you those guests.
Yes,
they also have to be happy with your service. So one of the things that I learned and that we took away from that experience was often people look at acquiring new business as sales calls, and it was a little bit of a mind shift. So every time they would go out and they would interact with an existing customer, they're like, well, this isn't a sales call. I'm not getting new business. I already have this business. Mm. And they start diminishing the value of that moment where they walk in and shake the owner's hand and say, thank you for this client. Mm-hmm. And so that happened over a period of time. And essentially, the layman's terms I could say is we stopped being the little guy helping the little guy.
Yeah.
We thought we were the big guy, and we earned your business. We just were given it. So what I made a point was with my team is we called them then service calls versus sales calls. Mm. So anytime you go to a client's facility and you're picking up a customer or you're visiting for whatever reason, you're passing by and you want to stop in. I gave them a set of questions to ask on a service call.
Okay.
So how's our business been? What's working? What's not working? How could I improve? And just those simple questions. But the more staggering part is when they had a little fire burning, we put it out.
Yeah.
We decided not to do that at some point at this client that we lost. And we put ourselves in such a situation that they brought a competitor in-house.
Right.
So that just goes to tell you how much we neglected that account and how little we thought that we would. I don't know if we got overconfident or too cocky or arrogant or what happened along the way. I wasn't there. But at some point we decided they weren't that important.
Yeah. That's human nature. The shiny new has more buzz to it, just from kids all the way up through. But we know the proven statistics are that acquiring new, that cycle of things and churn going through, if you're not taking care of the ones that onboard, is 5 to 25% more, 5 to 25 times more expensive and more effort and more time and resources and money and spend to get a new rather than to keep the ones you already have. Plus, we know that repeat and referrals are way more cost effective to organically grow. You talked about organic growth with the one HVAC company you worked with.
Yep.
Would you go in a little more detail on organic growth? What were some factors you believe that contributed to that?
We were in a really good position that we had a product that could be tailor fit to any home, not just a set type of home.
Okay.
So once we penetrated that marketplace, we knew that we had the best product in that marketplace. So that was step one.
Okay.
But the more critical step was how we handled the delivery of that product, which was the execution of the whole process. And I'll share this with you real quick, John. I had installers who, if they washed their hands in your home, they would take a paper towel and dry your sink when they were done. And that level of detail for service is what was the differentiator. Where we didn't have to ask for reviews; they asked us, "How do we give you a review?"
Wow.
And that spread like wildfire. It's like you ever go to Disney and see when they use the bucket they sweep with, they put water in it and they make Mickey ears all over the park.
That's cool.
that little element of wow, it's like, wow, this is Disney, and you get that feeling.
Yep.
I was teaching my service technicians and my installers to find wow movements. Like if they walked in your home and a picture frame is crooked, they would straighten it for you. Not say anything, just walk over and slightly put it to the right.
Yeah, the wow moments, you're right. It seems like that, well, they're big enough where they can do that. Chick-fil-A, Disney, but they didn't start that way. It was baked into their DNA and their processes, and as they grew, it stayed in. It's not something where they just tried to fit this in later because it was popular. Oh, this is proven to work. Fads don't work that way. They're fads for a reason, whereas if it's baked into your process, if it's part of your system, while there's some spontaneity built into it, there are other things that are just, hey, you've got a list of things that are go-tos that are memorable when you're in a guest's home. I love that idea of cleaning with a paper towel, of just taking that additional step, because how many people have you had, tradesmen, work people in your home, and they wash their hands and then the sink after? Well, it's not the same level of cleanliness it was before because you're working. I think that little touch means so much. Well, time has flown, Rob. I'm so grateful, and that's why our conversation resonated so strongly, because we share passions for the customer and employee experience, and they're intrinsically tied together. In the last 30 seconds that we've got or so, what has been for you personally, what's been some of the most rewarding, what's the most rewarding part of your journey, no matter what role you've had?
So I said earlier, when you asked me to talk about myself, I don't love doing it, although I don't mind talking. My most rewarding part is taking someone's career to the next level and watching them get promoted by applying the disciplines and the behaviors that I am suggesting. And I don't mean I'm telling them. I mean cohesively we're working together to formulate a plan to move them forward. And they've taken the ball and run with it.
Yeah. Oh, that would be so rewarding. The self-discovery light bulb comes on. You see the potential in them. They don't fully see it yet. You give them the tools. They take and run the tools, and then they end up with the success you knew they were already capable of doing. Yeah, being
Absolutely.
being an equipper like that. So cool. Rob, thanks for being our guest. Thank you for listening to our show. You can get us on Spotify, Podbean, our YouTube channel, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. See you next time.
This has been the Heroic Experience. To learn how your business can be profitable and heroic, visit accrev.com. For access to free weekly content, subscribe to the Accelerated Revenue YouTube channel and follow John D. Hanson on LinkedIn. To listen to archived shows, find them on the Accelerated Revenue website under the Resources tab, accrev.com.